Good evening and welcome to Small Talk with Centers for New Horizons. I am Davaris Rice, Youth Case Manager here at Centers, and I will be your host for this evening. I also have my co-host here, Mr. Latrell Baker. Today we will be discussing Black Lives Matters versus All Lives Matters. In 2016, there has been an alarming rate of police brutality in our community, as well as black-on-black crimes that have been highlighted in the media, which sparked the Lives Matters campaigns that everybody is talking about. Here on Small Talk, we like to stay focused on our youth and keep them oriented in programs and opportunities that will keep them off the streets and on the right path to a successful life. We love hearing from our viewers, so please give us a call at the number on screen with any of your questions and concerns. My co-host here, Mr. Baker, has been an advocate for the youth in our African American communities for over 15 years now. He has worked in the youth-orientated fields in several different roles. So today I'm going to sit here and we're going to talk about some of the entities involving youth and his current new campaign that he has going on right now called Innocent Lives Matters. Mr. Baker, thank you for being here today at Small Talk this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your educational background, and the campaign slogan that you've recently come up with.
Well, first of all, I don't want to come on as if I'm a person that thinks he has all the answers or even any of the answers, but it's been on my heart and my mind for most of my life about improving the community and improving the means that my people have and so forth and so on. But as far as the Innocent Lives Matter movement, or if that's what you want to call it, that was born just because I recently lost a friend who was so innocent and didn't deserve to lose his life the way he lost his life. And I know so many other people throughout the city share that same plight. And it was on my heart. So the day I found out that he passed, the next day when I went to work, I just bought a neon green poster board and I wrote Innocent Lives Matter on it. And I just felt like I wanted to stand out in the street, in the hood, with it, wherever I was. And that just was the thing. It wasn't like I was trying to create a movement, but I did want to do something visible. And I did want to put that message out there. Because yes, Black Lives Matter and all lives matter, though, that's common sense. But the truth of the matter is there are people out here of all ethnicities that are involved in crime and low-life activities, and they have a world to where they do things to each other. And we can't do anything about that. That's been going on forever. But the problem is when people that have nothing to do with the hatred that they put into the world, but they get the results of their hatred, that's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to the families that have to mourn. It's not fair to the person who lost their lives and so forth and so on. So innocent lives matter to me more than anything.
Okay. So tell us about your educational background as far as did you go to college and what was your major?
Absolutely.
Hold that thought. Looks like we have a caller. Caller, how may I help you?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. And I wanted to echo what the gentleman had just said. If you look at the data, 85% of the people who end up shot in this city are persons who are involved in some sort of gang activity or street-level crime. And so the gentleman is absolutely right. That leaves 15% of Chicagoans who are shot and or killed. It's a combination of the two that are innocent bystanders. These are the people who are not involved in crime, not involved in gangs, not involved in any sort of antisocial activity, who end up being assaulted and killed and shot just because they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I absolutely agree, as the gentleman says, that we do have a problem when it comes to people being shot and killed, as all lives matter. I also distinguish between people who are involved in gangs and crime and so forth. If that's the life you picked for yourself and you shot at somebody yesterday only to be shot at today and then you end up dead, that's a choice you've made. That's different than the mother of two walking her child in a stroller who who ends up being shot and killed. She didn't make any such choice. She wasn't asking for anything. She's not involved in that world. And those are the people that I think most of us feel sorry for and want to secure. With all due respect to gang members, I don't want to see you dead either. But you chose that life, so if you shoot at somebody, somebody might shoot at you. But innocent people, they didn't choose that life. They're forced to live in communities where they're prisoners in their own communities, and they feel like they can't walk the streets because other people are making it impossible for them to walk the streets in their own community.
Thank you so much, caller. We appreciate your comment. And again, this is why we wanted to bring it to the forefront about the Innocent Lives Matter, because in my opinion, it's never the subject that's touched enough. It's always a focus on more about who did the crime and how much crime they did before or after or during that point in their lives, and they focus a lot on that, but not the families of the victims and not the innocent bystanders who are involved in those crimes. So we do want to put more of a focus on that and maybe provide some resources and maybe some trauma counseling or something of that nature that will help address those issues, because a lot of people are affected by one person's murder or being a victim of a shooting or violent crime. Looks like we have another caller.
Good evening. You talking about more resources. You'd be surprised. The money is out there. It depends on how it's being spent. I'll give you an example. When you look at like the University of Chicago and other universities around here, and you got the state and other agencies paying like $3 and $4 million for them to conduct the research, and you have the community come in, they talk about what do they want, how they want the problem resolved. And I'll give you an example. They're talking about we want to have more police officers. That's fine and dandy, but that's not going to be the end of it all, the problem. Every time someone gets killed in Chicago, that have at least a $5 million effect on the city. Every time you have a person that winds up being disabled and gets shot, that at least in terms of $250 in terms of goods and services. So therefore, someone's making money off of people's misery. When you got these politicians that go in front of the cameras and they talk about these different surveys and they paying money out to conduct this survey. I'll give you an example, all right? They want to pay $4 million out to conduct a survey. Maybe that $4 million could be used in terms of like it's similar like in Chicago public schools where they can give teens jobs in the school to do different types of functions. And they rather spend the money on the rear end instead of spending the money up front. And you got people out there saying, well, we want them to lock them up, and because of the survey and the research they do, we're going to give the community what they want. The money is out there, is how it's being spent.
Thank you so much, caller.
Absolutely.
That is so very true.
Absolutely.
One of the things that you did say, and I wanted to reiterate about that, is that the resources are out there. But the one thing I do notice about the resources is that they're not being marketed properly. A lot of youth do not know of places where they can go for help. A lot of gang members that want to get out of gangs do not know of places where they can go for help. They don't have street teams with these organizations that are, going out there and say, I'm here to help. I want to help this age group. I want to help this particular demographic. Knocking on doors, talking about the issues and asking how they can help. A lot of the youth don't know where to go. So this is why I have Mr. Baker here, so that we can help to address some of this. But I see we have another caller. I'm going to wait for that caller for a moment, because I did want Mr. Luttrell to answer about his educational background and his passion behind this.
I attended Western Illinois University. I graduated in 2001 from Western Illinois University. I majored in journalism and African American studies with a minor in English, because writing was always a natural and grown passion that I had over the years. I still write. It's just something that I do. And my people, you notice I said African American studies. It was just something that a lot of people, when I say that, what are you going to do with that? It wasn't necessarily that I was thinking about using it in the sense of a job, but I wanted to get more enlightened about my history and my culture and my people, because that's how I was. Anybody that know me know that's how I was since I've been a little kid. So
Looks like we have another caller. Oh, okay. Maybe they hung up. Yes. Okay, Mr. Baker.
hello.
Hello? Are you there?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to say something with regard to the previous caller. I have a great deal of respect for him. I think he has a lot of great input when he calls in. And I would respectfully disagree with him in terms of the question of studies and funds that we allocate for that. It is not the case that it's one or the other, that we either fund studies in social sciences and criminology and sociology. Those are absolutely necessary, because if we don't understand the problems, then we can't fix them. Why we have universities, so that we can understand the best way to address social ills. At the same time, we also should allocate money to helping young people in terms of finding jobs, training them, giving them alternatives. So it's not a one or the other. Let's do the social science and fund it so we understand the problem. At the same time, let's allocate funds so that we can help young people today. It's not a one or the other proposition, I would contend.
Okay, caller. Thank you so much for your comment and concern. And you're right. We do definitely need to get down to the understanding of where the problem comes from. But ultimately, we know that the problem is coming from the home environment. So we got to get into these homes. We got to address some of the issues, some of the absentees of the parenting. And I think it starts there. And then schools, just like the young man who was sent away from school the other day, and then he got shot. I mean, you know, some of the rules and policies that are placed in schools are not set out to protect our kids. And we do have to address those issues. Looks like we have another caller. Caller, thank you for calling.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
Hey, how are you? Hi, my name is Felicia Kimber, and I was calling in, listening to the call-ins regarding the Black Lives Matter movement, and I personally feel that the Black Lives Matter movement is purposefully ineffective. Although it is an activist movement originating in the African American community that campaigns against violence toward black people, the movement was also co-founded by 3 black community organizers, but although it may have been founded by blacks and disorganizers, it is funded by the Democracy Alliance, Freedom Road Socialist Association, and these are funded by big corporations and foundations that provide the iPhones and the lodging and the traveling and the money to operate, instead of actually dealing with legislators on the House Senate floor, lobbying to change some of the regulations and glass ceilings and red tapes that African Americans have been having difficulty to strive through. Although I feel like that Black Lives Matter bring awareness, but it is totally ineffective, which is pretty much all our movements diverted into. So when we look at the educational front, when we look at what's happening within the home, we have to also look at the purposeful, ineffective tools that are designed to, quote unquote, help us, that's really deviating from assisting us. Why isn't Black Lives Matter filing charges? Why do they not lobby on the House floor, sit and legislate, or round up people that can share their story in Springfield, Illinois, regarding Chicago crime? But they march, they protest, and I find that wholeheartedly ineffective. And to say that the education front and the schooling in the homes, that is another reason there are homes and we do have our issues, but it's also ineffective. I do know to this day that there are community programs that are set up to get 501c3 funding to help out the community, but they don't. They just set up a food pantry, and most of those monies are put in reserve and funneled to the founders of those charities companies. So we have an internal issue and an external issue, but we have to really realize that what changes things is marching or protesting changes things. It's not. Shooting police officers is not going to change things. The only thing that's going to change things are those people that are funding Black Lives Matter that also will fund them to stand on the House floor, to stand in the UN, and to state these crimes against humanity and human capital. And if they're not doing that, they are purposely diverting the purpose of Black Lives Matter.
Thank you so much, caller, for your input. That goes back to the fact that Centers for New Horizons is all about the youth, and we are not just setting up food pantries. We are more in the business of setting up employment and educational opportunities for our youth, and things that will provide them with the level of feeling self-sufficient and feeling responsible. So it's all about taking responsibility for their actions, and we do put things in place and provide them with opportunities that will make them feel more responsible, more self-sufficient, keep them off the street, and we're not just giving them a can of beans. Okay, so Centers for New Horizons is all about education and employment when it comes to our youth and our communities. If you have any questions or concerns about Centers for New Horizons, then please give us a call back, or please contact us, visit us, look us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, in regards to any questions or concerns and anything that you're asking about youth resources, because we do have them. No food pantries here. As a matter of fact, we actually have a live garden. Thank you. Mr. Baker had some input about that.
Well, I was going to respond to what her concern was with the Black Lives Matter movement and saying how they were ineffective. I'm in agreement with her not to be critical about Black Lives Matter or anything like that, but I do only see that, in my opinion, because what she was way more in depth about her analysis of it, and she made me think about a lot more. But I do feel like they do only show their faces when certain things happen. It's a shame when an officer shoots an unarmed teenager or unarmed black man in the streets. That's crazy. It's horrific. We all know that. But that's the only time that I see the Black Lives Matter movement. Like I said, I didn't see Black Lives Matter, and no one really sees Black Lives Matter when these little babies get killed or when their friends get killed and so forth and so on. So that's why I stood out in the middle of the street with a sign for my friend and for other friends and people that were lost out here. Yeah, so I do agree Black Lives Matter should be more visible and more active in the direct community.
Looks like we have a new caller. Caller, thank you for calling. How may we help you?
When you look around the schools and you look around other agencies, I have said this so many times before, bad behavior is rewarded. When you do what you're supposed to do, a lot of times you don't get rewarded at all. Go around to some of these schools, and it's not about educating the students at all. It's more about, a lot of times, a passionate system in terms of somebody getting a job, somebody knows somebody. And then we have students that don't have books, and it's all about, a lot of times, making sure the students come to school so they can wind up getting those dollars from the state and the federal government. So they don't really care about students at all. And when you look at what the bottom line is, whether you pass that test, whether you come to school and when they can get the money and all that, and you look at some of these schools, they don't even have honor rolls. They don't praise a child to do well at all. They got these agencies around here where they give these children these coats and clothes and shoes and all that, but they won't give them that pat on the head when they do something good. But if a girl is pregnant, guess what? They give all kinds of money to have a baby, but they won't give her different types of services, how to go to college to give her the information, but there's some way, somehow, somebody can make $1 off of somebody's misery.
Caller, thank you so much for calling, and you just brought up some extremely wonderful points. We do somewhat agree with that in regards to the fact that, they're not rewarded enough. They're not praised for the things they do good enough. But the moment that they're doing something wrong, then the spotlight is pointed on them. Which segues me into my question, which I was going to ask Mr. Baker, as he currently is working in the school system right now as a teacher's assistant, and I wanted to ask him what are some number of problems that he see in the school system, and how could they be addressed, Mr. Baker?
Well, one, respect. A lot of the kids, they don't respect, and I'm not just talking about as far as respecting adults, but they're not respecting education. A lot of kids are in school, they're not serious, they think it's a time to play, and the biggest issue that educators face is some of these kids have that free environment at home. So it's a big challenge when they come to school and we try to give them structure, because some of these kids, unfortunately, that's the only structure that they have, is that little 6-5 hour period of the day. So it gets difficult sometimes when you have kids that have less fortunate situations and they're tied in the classroom. So it's a focus, a lack of focus, and just a lack of taking education seriously at the middle school age, which is one of the most detrimental ages of school, as we all know.
Okay. And how would you suggest that adults take more accountability for the actions of the youth in their homes? How would you address, adults being more accountable?
Well, there's a host of things, depending on individual situations. But first and foremost, I think, especially speaking for my generation, 40, and from people from 30 to 40 who have kids that are in the middle age, and even in their late 20s who have kids in the middle school ages. It's cool to be who you are and have your youth, but sometimes you have to take off your young hat and be mom or dad. You can't be a friend all the time. Sometimes you have to tell them that thing that's uncomfortable to tell them. You don't want to see their reaction. You don't want them to be upset. You have to do this because we have to prepare our kids for real life and not just coddle them and tell them things like, oh, if that teacher says something wrong to you, you tell me I'm going to come cuss them out. That's not the attitude. And so it's a reversal of respect, or a loss completely of respect. And I think adults, to be more accountable, need to stop trying to fit in with young people, and as an adult, do your duty and guide young people.
As of now, we all are seeing, I think that every youth probably has been affected by a loss through violence or something of that nature close to them. And it seems like that a lot of our kids are suffering from some post-traumatic stress disorders. Do you think that some kind of trauma therapy in the school system would be effective?
Absolutely. I do think that they need some clinical people that are experienced in dealing with conflict resolution, anger management. Those are the things that our kids suffer from the most, because of, obviously, there's a negative attitude that is kind of like a rite of passage in the hood. We all know. We grow up and people want to be bad, people want to be tough, and our kids, that's a hindrance to a lot of our kids. And I watch kids that I know could get so much more out of themselves, but they focusing on acting a certain way because they think that's the way that they have to be accepted. And we have to kind of switch that ideology around and let kids know it's okay to be that smart kid. It's okay to be the one that does not go the way everybody else goes.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Baker. You've been such a wonderful guest to have here today and interview with. You sparked some real strong, healthy conversations. If you all want to have more of a conversation about this, or if you find yourself wanting to gather and perhaps even starting some type of event where we can address some of these issues, please give us a call or visit us at our website at www.cnh.org. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Centers 2.0. Hashtag us at Centers 2.0. And please do not be shy about giving us a call. I want to thank you all, and Centers for New Horizons would like to thank you until the new horizon.